Hello and welcome to the creaking salt-soaked tables of the Brazen Hydra pub in Bilgewater. We're your hosts, Entgroven,
Conquest,
and today we'll be sharing a pint and talking all things Runeterra and beyond. And so what I really wanted to focus on this episode is lore. We got to start talking lore because, in my opinion, one of the most important things in MMO, it's going to be the lore. It's got to be set up correctly going into the game, and then it's got to be delivered well throughout the game.
I
how
agree.
important do you think the lore is?
World building. How big do I think the lore is? You said.
How important? How important is it for the game?
Important?
There's people that don't care.
Oh boy. No, yeah, there are people that don't care, but I mean, when you look at Guild Wars 2, I think that's the first example I think of where like world building is not the first and foremost component of an MMO would be Guild Wars 2, and that game does well enough, right? But I don't think it'll ever reach levels of like World of Warcraft or Final Fantasy 14 for that reason. And the truth is, majority of people are going to play an MMO casually. They're not going to be pushing like, the gameplay to its pinnacle, right?
Yeah.
And in that case, most casual players are going to lean into the story. That's just kind of what happens when you play a game casually. And that's the majority of an MMO player base. So absolutely, world building and just an immersive universe that feels lived in, that's insanely important for any MMO, in my opinion.
You know what I think is funny? So I agree with you that casual players tend to be more invested in the lore, and someone who's like, really just invested in endgame or like, the world's first raiders or heavy PvPers don't really get invested in the lore. Samicus, we actually saw the opposite. This guy did not care about the lore at all. Samicus is our brother. He streams too. You guys should check out his stream. But he did not care about the lore for World of Warcraft at all. But now he became like, he's pretty hardcore. I would say he's hardcore because he plays, he's like 5 a.m. till 8 p.m. every morning.
5 to 8 a.m.
I'd say that's pretty hardcore. And now he's invested in the lore. This guy never read a quest text in his life. So
that's very true. I did not think about that, but you're very right about that. As soon as he became a high level like end content player, that's when he started caring about like what's going on with Chromie, like this random gnome character. Like, dude, I don't know. It was shocking to me too. I never thought he'd be the kind of guy that falls into the lore, but he really did when we started playing more aggressively.
Yeah, he's got like theory videos out and stuff. It's funny. It's funny.
Oh yeah.
The reason
you're right. I mean, anyone can fall into the lore, honestly. Any demographic.
And even I think the people that don't care about the lore at all RP a little bit. Just a little bit. Everyone RPs a little bit. Like you don't have to be sitting there and running full RP scenes in the middle of a city in the game. But you RP a little bit. Everyone,
absolutely.
Yeah.
Dude, even the guy whose like character's name is like Dumbfart or something like that, even he cares about his character in terms of like, he still picked his race because he thinks that's the cool race, He picked those eyebrows on that orc because he thinks those eyebrows look cool, all right? So at the end of the day, you have some level of attachment to your character just in terms of who they are. And that makes you invested in like the world, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I think human is the most created character in World of Warcraft. So
I think in every MMO, it's human.
Yeah. So I wonder how it's going to be in the Riot, because the thing is with the Riot MMO, we were talking about characters last time. Man, we're going to do the tangent thing again. We were talking about characters last time, and we were saying how there's different characters of the Tauren, or not really the Tauren. They're the Centaur,
the Minotaurs,
the Trolls, Minotaurs and Trolls. But Vastaya look pretty human a lot of the time. There are Vastaya that don't look human at all. I don't think you'll be able to play as those. There's like a lizard creature in Bilgewater, but that's like a lizard.
Yeah.
I don't think you'll be able to play that. I think the character they do play will be pretty human. So I wonder if you'll see more of a balance, because Vastaya do look almost human in a lot of ways. They're not like elves or anything. Like you would think Ari is a human if you don't look too close at her face or her eyes or her tails. So just look at don't look at her
from like the neck up. If she like puts her ears down,
Exactly.
But I definitely know what you mean, because I think of the Vastaya the same way in terms of the MMO and like the race population. I think the Vastaya are going to be the blood elves of the game. You know,
Yeah,
they're going to
I think so
be,
too.
yeah, it's going to be Vastaya and humans far and above any other playable race in the game. Humans will definitely be number one, and then Vastaya, and then there's going to be a massive gap, and then it's going to be all the other races.
Yeah,
But
massive
I think
gap, and
humans
then
will stay number
Yordles,
one still. Yeah, yeah.
and then
Yordles,
everything
I'm
else.
sorry. Like, yeah. Dude, I hope so. I mean, I think Yordles, more than any other small race in any MMO, actually have a fighting chance to be a decent population. But
Yeah,
every MMO, just the small population, let me tell you, they are passionate people, but they are few and far between. But they do exist. It's just, yeah, World of Warcraft, you got your gnomes and goblins. I think like you're gonna see gnomes, and if somebody plays a gnome, they're committed to it, right? Same with
yeah.
goblins, and then you have the Lalafell in Final Fantasy 14. And again, I was in a guild that was just Lalafell, and they would do like social events and stuff like that in the capital city. They do like marches of just small people. That's what they did.
What the heck?
So I 100% 1 billion% certain Yordles are gonna have that same vibe of extremely passionate people that just like, you know, like if somebody's maining a Yordle, they have 4 alts that are also Yordles. They're not gonna have any other race on their account. But
I'll say this about Yordles too. I've never played a gnome. I never wanted to play a gnome. I never played a goblin. Never want to play a not goblin. I played the Final Fantasy a little bit with you. I've made that dragon character. What are they called?
yeah,
I didn't make a
I honestly
Lalafell.
I don't remember. But
Yeah,
yeah.
but Yordles, I actually like Yordles. Like I like them.
Yeah.
I think they're cool. I think they're a
See,
cool group. Like I like them. I
yeah,
think they're fun.
I think they actually have a fighting chance. I'm not counting on it. I'm definitely not expecting it for them to have a decent population, just because I think most people are not gonna like know what Vandal City even is, right? They're just gonna hop into it and they're gonna see the little guy and they're gonna be like, ah, you know,
Yeah,
I'm gonna play the
that's
freaking
true.
cat girl. But but
Yeah.
when people see how cool the Yordles actually are after jumping into the MMO and maybe even having some experience with League of Legends with like characters like, oh my god, what's his name? I always forget the Noxus Yordle. God, I love him. That rides the freaking lizard looking
Oh,
thing.
Clank, or not Clank. What's man? I'll find it.
Dude, he has
Let
such a
me.
weird name. But so do all
Yeah,
Yordles, right?
I feel
I
like
think
the
that's part of
Yordles
the
they got
appeal.
variety. They've got a
Yeah,
lot
that's
of
the thing.
variety. That's the cool part.
Yeah, so everyone will have a Yordle that appeals to them, you know? There's they have like by far, I mean, I don't know. I was gonna say they have by far the widest variety of a race, but then you have Vastaya, which is just kind of cheating. But
But I will say this: they do a good job of
somebody's gonna
that.
be like, yeah,
The
they do a
Riot
very
MMO
good
does a
job of
good
that.
job of that. Where like a lot of other games they'll make this is the character, this is their personality, like maybe 3 different types of
Yeah,
personalities, and that's them.
yep, you're
Humans
very
are
right about that.
very wide breadth within because I feel like they're more spread out. They're more like it's more like a world. They're not so concentrated. Like
Yeah,
there's Yordles
yeah.
and Vandal cities, Yordles everywhere. There's humans in Noxus and Demacia. There's humans everywhere. There's Vastaya in Ionia, and there's Vastaya everywhere. And you got like Kled, who's in Noxus, who's completely different than Poppy in Demacia, and that's because it's where they grew up, and they're completely different than Heimerdinger in Piltover. Like they did a really good job of making the world feel like how it would if it was a real world. Like, yeah, no, they wouldn't all
Yeah.
be the same. And even in Vandal Tale, like you have uh this all these different areas, and each of the Yordles is different in those areas. And then there's subgroups with different like vibes in just those areas.
Mhm. Oh no,
So
I completely agree. That's one thing that I always give Riot credit for is that a race is just a race and that's about it, right? Like it's mostly just like physically like how they look more than anything is what
yeah.
defines a race, but other than that, dude, they can just be anything. Like Poppy relates more to humans than she does Yordles. And
Yeah.
that's really cool to me. Like there are plenty of Yordles who don't call Bandle City home, even though that's the capital city of the Yordles. Right? Like that's where they sting originate from. But not all Yordles are gonna live there. And I love that. They definitely like I think even
I'm
like
with you.
early on, that's just always something that they've had in mind. Cause like just even like League of Legends heroes, right? Like they're not gonna make every Yordle the same. They want heroes to be diverse, and that just kind of led to Runeterra being this awesome place where every single character is completely different from all the others. But yeah, I think that reason alone, is why Yordles have a fighting chance. Because I think everyone's going to see a Yordle at some point in the MMO that they're going to like. You know, it's
Yeah.
not going to be like the gnomes where they're all just a bunch of tinkerers and it's super like pacifist. We're
That's what
going
it
to
is.
see
Like they
Yordles
have that
like just go
personality
like
and that's it.
cutthroat.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yordles have variety. You know, there's like
Mhm.
Yordles in Bilgewater is not the same as a Yordle in Ionia. And even in Bandle City, like there's so many different types of Yordles.
Yeah, absolutely. Dude, yeah, I agree with you that Urals actually have a fighting chance to be a decent populated race, but we'll see. I still don't have my hopes up.
Yeah, temper your expectations for sure.
Yeah. There's still small people on the character select screen, so.
Before we go too far off the rest, I promise we're back to it. So the reason that I wanted to talk about lore a little bit is because you had the dev update with Laura Day Young back in they did that dev update. They said their lore in the past had inconsistencies, and that going forward from that day, all new storytelling will be a part of one shared canon, and this would be reflected upon everything that Riot makes. Then after that, they said Song of Nunu is coming out, and that is canon. But then who Laura Day tweeted out on February 25th that for clarity, our Forge games allow our partner developers to get creative with our universe and not adhere strictly to canon. So let me explain why this is important because I thought going forward that all these games would be canon, but I thought Bandletale would be canon. And honestly, it could be. It doesn't really affect the lore. I thought Mage Seeker would be canon. I thought Rune King would be canon. But then I kept thinking about like they really only specifically said Song of Nunu. She didn't say all the other Riot Forge titles are canon. I guess, I mean, it really doesn't affect the lore in any way, but I don't think Vandal Tale is canon. There's not really like a lot of lore in there, anyways. You're kind of just like helping out, and the Vandal City is pretty fluid. But the reason that it got to me is because I felt like Song of Nunu was a little weird when we were down there fighting over the Eye of the Watchers because there's short stories. Well, they're not that short, but there's short stories, the Watchers, and all this. And going down there is like an intense thing. I mean, you don't just pop up down there whenever you want. I would think like noon. I mean, any iceborn down there is literally freezing. They feel like their blood is being frozen, and the eye watching you literally slip into like a state of unconsciousness. And yet, Nunu and Lissandra just had a battle down there and like Lysandra literally sends what like Frostguard down there to check on the state of the ice to make sure that it hasn't melted. And she sacrificed like her sisters and everyone to seal the watchers in this tomb below. And yet all of a sudden, like she can just pop down there whenever she wants. Like, why is she sending watchers? Why is she sending Frostguard down there to check on the state of the ice when she can just pop down there, have a full battle, and nothing's happening? And that's the only part of the like in Song of Nunu that I was like, this is a little sketchy. And that's why I was like, okay,
Yeah.
maybe I'm okay that it's not canon. I liked the development and like a lot of the new stuff that was in there, a lot of the new lore that was in there. Like I like the story behind the Yetis and the War of the Three Sisters that they were involved in that. But that part really that's the only part that I looked at and I was like, you're making light of this place that's supposed to be like sacred and terrifying. And I don't want to see it yet.
Yeah, I absolutely know what you mean, especially because Song of Nunu itself feels like the entire game is setting up to something that's going to happen later, right?
Yeah.
Like, Song of Nunu does not feel like a standalone story. There's a
No.
lot before it, and it feels like there's going to be a lot after it. So the idea of us just dropping down, yeah, I agree with you though. The idea of just dropping down there, which was like built up to be this just place you're not supposed to go to at all, and then
Yeah.
suddenly we're just down there like casually.
With the eye just looking
Yeah,
around. He's just chilling
yeah.
down there looking
Like
around.
what? Is he just bored and now he has something to watch? I guess. But yeah, even just like Nunu being down there. I mean, like even in terms of like feasibility, like Willump, sure, dude, he's a Yeti. Yetis are insanely powerful. Like sure, but even then, don't put them down there. Especially if you're gonna do it like that, where
Yeah,
there's
I
just
just
kind of not much build up to it, and like if
there
you don't know
wasn't
the
build
lore
up.
behind it, you don't feel like it's significant at all. But
Yeah.
yeah, no, I
There
agree. That's like the
there
one
wasn't
big flaw
enough.
with that game looking back. Yeah, there wasn't enough. For the significance of that place, they really just threw it on you.
Yeah, like if you read The Eye in the Abyss, which I did, I have a video where I read through the whole short story. I mean, it was one of my earlier videos, so If you listen to that, my voice doesn't sound that good, but Olar Stonefist is a freaking legend. Like he is one of the coolest characters in there. And I don't want to spoil anything, but like there should be a monument to Olar Stonefist in the MMO. Like you know how you have that those monuments in World of Warcraft that's like there's
Yeah,
like
like Khadgar and all the people who stayed behind
yeah,
the Dark Portal. Yeah, they're all in Stormwind.
Olar
That's sick. I
Stonefist
love
should
that.
have like a statue of himself. Like that's how much he's. And then here's Nunu and Lysandra could have just popped down there whenever she wanted. Why'd she send him to die? Like he risked his life, and these are Frostborn who jumped down there. And there's like these mortis stones, which are like these daggers of granite, which are over 100 feet in length, and they were weapons of the last resorts. When the Watchers stir, they drop them down there. It's like this is supposed to be a freaking place, you know?
Yeah, like this is terrifying. It shouldn't even be considered a place.
Yeah,
Like you're not supposed to go there. It's not something you
exactly.
go to.
Yeah, it's a place you're
It's just
terrified of.
yeah. I think I and that's like the kind of what sucks about it too is that Riot Forge so far. I mean, like Riot in general in Runeterra has been very good about leaving stuff to the imagination, right? Because if you leave that stuff a mystery, it's a lot more interesting than if you just see it and it's there.
Exactly.
So
I have
the idea of
yeah,
the Watchers being down there and not being able to see them and just knowing that they're down there is way scarier than how Song of Nunu ended things.
exactly. Even when they climb up, like they, he says that he can feel the gaze, and it's almost like the scariest part about it is its indifference and its patience, and it's just kind of watching, and it's not like it doesn't have any
It's
anger
not like
or
struggling to
yeah,
get
it's just
out.
it's what it is. It's a force, and it's down there, and it's just waiting to emerge and trying to find a way out. But it's not doing it like manic or panicked or anything. That's the scariest part about it. And then to just be fighting Lysandra with the eye looking around underneath me was kind of like a letdown. That's the truth. That's how I felt about it. But everything else was great in Song of Nunu. It's just I didn't
Oh
like
yeah,
that fight. I
overall it's
felt like it made
fantastic.
light. It made light of something that shouldn't have been made light. But that's not to say the game is bad in any way. It was freaking amazing, and I loved
No,
it.
yeah, like I still think overall it's one of the better Riot Forge games for sure. Like I still think Tequila Works absolutely killed it. And
Yeah,
Nunu and Willump was a great choice to make a story around like that. Super
yeah.
cool.
But I
But
do
yeah,
agree with you
so
too about the lore that they left inconsistencies. Like I'm working on a video now that talks about Pike and how there's way more to him than we think in terms of his story and what his actual goal is and his relationship with the sea monsters.
oh yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I'm
that's a
making it
really
now.
good one. Oh man, I'm excited for that one. I already know what it is and I'm excited for it. Cuz
Yeah, yeah.
you've been cooking up that one for a while now.
I've been cooking at it and like saying, I'm not gonna do it. I'm not gonna do it. I'm like, you know what? I want to do it. I'm gonna start making like my first ever. This is my first ever lore theory video. But I always feel like people don't know enough lore yet to appreciate theory videos. Like I have another theory that Amumu is Azir's brother, which is
Ooh.
yeah. That one's a little bit more. I feel like there's stuff that I remember I found that kind of makes it where that's not the case, but it would be interesting because Azir did have a brother that was lost, and we don't know what happened to him. It was like during the battle with Zirat, and he had a little
Oh.
brother, and I was like, it could be Amumu because Amumu is like a long lost king of the Shuriman Empire. He was like a prince, so it adds
Dude.
up. But then I remember finding
Yeah,
something
like
that
just
made me
those two
think, nah,
facts alone could make it very interesting if that yeah, if that does line up, that's very cool. I'd be
yeah.
behind that.
But
But
see, I just don't know if people know enough yet. Is the problem? But people like Pike, so I'm gonna
yeah.
do it anyways, and I think it's fun, so I don't care.
Yeah, it's very no, yeah, I think even if people are just like, "Oh, that's Pike from League of Legends," they're still gonna like, wanna click on a lore because like, look at Dota 2. Dude, there's so much lore in Dota 2, where people will just see a hero that they like, and they'll see a cool lore theory about him, and they'll watch it just because they know the
Mhm.
character from Dota. So, it's very possible just off of the League of Legends fan base alone that they'll wanna watch a theory about Pike, honestly, just because 'cause they'll know the character.
Yeah. But again, that's like another example of what you're talking about where they left stuff open ended and they didn't really they didn't
Yeah, leave it to the
close it.
imagination.
Mhm.
Yeah. and it also just leaves them more room to write stuff later however they like. It's just it's a good idea to leave stuff like that, like especially like Pike is naturally like when you just look at him, you know this dude's mysterious, and they do that on purpose, and I think they do a very good job at it.
Yeah, yeah. So where do you feel like the lore, like you enjoy that zone of the lore the most?
Oh, man, are you talking about like geographically in Runeterra?
Like in terms of a place that you wanted to explore. Like you could pick any place on the map you want to explore it, which would it be?
Wow, that's difficult. I mean, obviously Freljord's a big one, right? There's a lot going on in Freljord.
Yeah,
And I
and I'm
hope
leading to something. That's why I'm
oh,
asking.
okay.
It's something
That
to do
being
with the
said,
lore, but go ahead.
I hope we don't explore Freljord till later because they need to do it justice and it's worthy of late game content. It's not something you see at the beginning because there's way too much ultra powerful godly stuff going on there.
Hmm.
Second would probably be Bilgewater, just because it like just aesthetically, Bilgewater is really really cool, and the fact that it's so close to the Shadow Isles and those two are so closely connected means there's a lot of dark, mysterious stuff going on in Bilgewater. It's very exciting to explore that. And I think the city will do it justice. I think the city of Bilgewater will be really cool in the MMO, and then of
Yeah.
course Bandle City. But I mean, like I don't think we're gonna see Bandle City for a while. Honestly, I'm not expecting it to be on launch.
So out of the places that you picked, right? You didn't
Hmm.
pick Piltover or Zon. You didn't pick
No,
Ionia. You didn't pick
no,
Demacia or Noxus. You didn't pick
no,
Targon. You didn't pick
no,
Shurima. You
nope,
didn't pick Ishtal. You picked
nope.
Freljord and you picked Bilgewater and its relationship to the Shadow Isles.
Yeah.
Freljord and Bilgewater, I guess, kind of does go hand in hand with the Shadow Isles, are two of the probably most mysterious places in Runeterra. You could make an argument for Ishtal, but
That's a
Ishtal is a
very
little
good point.
boring. Ishtal is a little boring. Like at the end of the day, Ishtal is
Yeah.
a jungle and vines will eat you. It's like, it's
Yeah,
cool.
like yeah, I'll yeah, exactly. I'll go into Ishtal kind of knowing where the mystery is. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? The mystery is in the wildlife of the jungle. And there might be
Yeah.
some other magic-y stuff going on there, but it's not going to be nearly to the degree of Freljord or Bilgewater Shadow Isles.
Yeah. But the other places, like even Targon, people have already been all the way to the peak. You know what's up there. You know the Marai territory of the water around, and you know what's deep down there.
Hmm.
But when it comes to Bilgewater, there's something about the ocean around there that we don't really know. There's a ton to do with the Shadow Isles that we don't really understand. There's
Yeah, you feel like you're gonna meet a lot of interesting characters there that are not
yeah,
going to just be like you're not gonna be able to get a read on anyone in Bilgewater. There's gonna be a
yeah,
lot of variety there, a lot of different people that you're gonna know nothing about, and that you're gonna have to slowly uncover. And I'm
exactly.
excited for that.
And so the places that you gravitated towards on the map were the places that you said, I know the least about. And that's
Yeah.
something that needs to be recognized is that there needs to always, that's one of the problems with the MMOs too that I see today is that they need to explain everything. Everything needs to explain, everything needs to be justified, everything needs to have a purpose.
Hmm.
But sometimes you just need to like let things go. Like it would suck if I have this theory about Pike, it would suck if they just told us this versus I feel like they've implied a lot
Oh
with
yeah.
Pike, but they never said it explicitly. And everything that he does now is almost done like you have to wonder who's doing it. And that's what makes Pike a cool character. And that's why you gravitate towards these zones because you don't know, you want to know about them. And so that's something that they have to
Yeah.
like continue on throughout the MMO. And it's not easy to do.
Absolutely. Dude, like I didn't even bring up how excited we always talk about Camavor. I feel like more than any other zone, we bring up Camavor a lot. And it's
Yeah,
because
we
we
like
don't know
Camavor.
anything about Camavor.
Yeah. I
How
wonder
much we
when we
talk
go
about it,
there.
we know little to nothing. Yeah, and I feel like it's inevitable, right? We'll go there at some point, hopefully in
Oh
the
yeah.
MMO. And
But
oh
I
man,
wonder when
when
we
we
go there
do,
how
I'm
it's gonna
so
be.
excited. Yeah,
Like,
dude.
are we gonna go there just be in shambles? I mean, it's been a long time. I understand
Yeah.
Viego destroyed that place, and by the time uh wow, what's the new dragon's name?
Smolder?
Smolder. By the time Smolder left, like it was already destroyed. There was really nothing left, and his mother was venturing farther and farther to hunt. But it's been what, like thousands and thousands of years since then? I forgot how old
Yeah.
is Viego. How
Oh,
old
Viego's
is
very old.
Viego? Yeah, a thousand years ago. I feel like in 1,000 years, it shouldn't be a ruin anymore. And that's one of the things that so you had the Sentinels of Light event, and they do that's one event that I would like to see made not canon, honestly.
Really?
Even though like I like the idea of the Sentinels of Light, actually no. Never mind, because it does set up Viego and Camavor, which I like. So I want to keep
That's
Sentinels
what
of
I
Light.
was
Never
thinking.
mind.
That's the only thing I like about him is what they do to Viego.
Yeah.
Like the Sentinels themselves, yeah, I don't care about, to be honest. Personally, like their
Yeah.
stories just don't, like the characters don't appeal to me personally. But
Yeah.
I love Viego, and I love that they set him up in Camavor.
Yeah. I I think keep that, and I like that they set him up in Camavor. I do like the story of Senna and Lucian. I think that's like a pretty cool story. Like Lucian just kind of losing his mind and going all the way to the Shadow Isles on a boat to just fight Thresh is insane. So I thought that was cool.
Mhm.
But the thing about it is like they did show a little bit of it, and it was still pretty destroyed. I would like it to be that it kind of is different. Like it's the dragons have kind of
Yeah,
taken
like
over. There's
yeah, I was
Camavorian
gonna say
people
that
like,
like new life is there.
yeah, I don't want
Like
to go
there's
back
still
to a
maybe
wrecked
like
city.
ruins, or it could just be like yeah,
Yeah,
it could be like remnants of the city are still there, but
yeah,
they're now inhabited by other people that are slowly like rebuilding things. And yeah, you're right. It's been so long now that it's just gonna stay like a dead wasteland forever. Nobody's gonna go there from that other
yeah.
continent.
Not
Like
everyone died, and there's like a whole
yeah.
continent there. I would think that people would expand into it, and I'd like it to not be where all the Imperial dragons are dead either. I don't know.
Oh
That's kind
yeah.
of what I want to see when I get to Camavor. Is like it has changed in the last 1,000 years.
I completely agree, dude. All right, I just had a thought, total kind of pivot, but like
Okay,
I don't know about you, but one of my favorite places in World of Warcraft, in the entire world of Azeroth and World of Warcraft,
okay.
is is the ruins of Lordaeron. Right when you stand in
Mm,
the throne room where the prince killed his father, the king, and you see
yeah.
the blood stain on the ground where his crown rolled after he got killed, after he
No,
got
I
ran through
agree.
with a sword. One of the coolest places ever. I cannot wait till we go to the Shadow Isles and we see the remnants that destroyed Pool where Viego set his wife down to
Yep.
revive her.
The blessed
Little stuff like
waters.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah, dude, like just to see that empty pool all destroyed, ruins all around you, and you know what happened here. That energy, dude, it's so good. So for stuff like that, when they show the history of Runeterra just in the environment, I can't wait for stuff like that. That alone has me so excited just thinking about it. And you know, Shadow Isles is gonna have all kinds of stuff like that. So I mean, hey, we will have runes, but they'll be in the Shadow Isles. I agree. I hope Camavor kind of takes us away from that and more into new life taking over.
Here's what I do think too. I think so. You'll have the initial Runeterra launch, right? And the way you're
Hmm.
talking about the Shadow Isles, it being like you're going back and we're seeing the blood. I feel like that's going to be very tempting. I think you're going to have the initial launch. Everyone goes out. Man, maybe I'm just biased, but I feel like I don't want to go straight to the Shadow Isles. I want one
No,
expansion,
I don't. Yeah,
one something, maybe even two somethings, and then the Shadow Isles. And I don't even
I
want to touch
agree.
the void for a
Yeah,
while.
I
For a pretty long
completely agree.
time. And even when we do touch the void, I want it to be Ishtal or not Ishtal. What's it called? Why am I blanking on it? The Acathia. I want it to be
Oh yeah,
Acathia
yeah,
and not like the Freljord level void. Like I want it to
yeah.
be Gruntlings
Yeah, no,
kind
I
of thing.
completely agree. I totally thought the same exact way that Kathia is like the perfect starting point for the void, right? It's the perfect little teaser, little taste. Cause like Acathia has the history behind it where it is a significant place, but it's also not like the place that you think of immediately when you think
Yeah.
of the void. At least not for me. So I feel like it's perfect to where we could run in there and we'll see the horrors. We'll see how unmatched we are. And it's not even like the beginning of the void for us. So yeah, like if anything, definitely not on launch. The launch we need to be dealing with like more petty stuff like Noxus and Demacia, and like uh Shurima,
Yeah.
dealing with its stuff, whatever's going on there. I think we seem to be dealing with the local drama before we start getting to things that are taking over the world. You know, we need to
Yeah.
build up to that scale, and even then, I want us to be outmatched. I want us to not be able to do it alone. You know, maybe I always forget his name from Targon, the mage dude,
Tarek.
Tarek. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
from
Like
Demacia.
like
He came from Demacia, climbed the mountain. He's like he's the I forgot which aspect he bound with. I think I gotta look back at his story. But yeah, he's joined with an aspect. He's cool.
yeah. I was like, we need to get like Tarek and like Rise involved, to like cheese out the void, because there's no way in heck we can fight them head on. You know what I mean? We need
Yeah.
bigger players than us to step in to fight the void. But in the very beginning, we can handle the petty stuff going on between the nations. As just like members of an army or of a Runeterra peacekeeping corps or something.
Yeah.
But we
We gotta
definitely don't
solve
start out at the void.
we gotta solve some of the big problems first. Noxus and Demacia problems, Piltover and Zon problems. I think
Yeah,
I think the
exactly.
first expansion, I don't think it should be included, and I think it should be an expansion, is Ishtal. I feel like Ishtal would
I
make a
agree.
great expansion that's not like super world ending threat. You have like a new class, the Axiomata. So like to the people of
Ooh.
Ixtal, yeah. There's like it's like has to do with the material forces, and they use elemental magic from like the simple to very complex, and they have axioms, and it's like different elements. Think of the avatar, but not really. But it's almost like
Yeah.
nature magic, and they use the different elements, and that's like an awesome class, I think, where you're using the elements, and then there's obviously it's an unexplored forest. There's elemental drakes, so I know we're been on the Imperial Dragons right now, but there's like abandoned ruins scattered throughout Ishtal, and there's these elemental drakes there as well. And they like, even the last time that they fought, the elemental drakes, the last time they fought with mortals was during the Shuriman War against the Void, the Shurima War against the Void for Akathia.
Oh.
But for the most part, they're left alone at this point, so they're not stupid. They're pretty smart. And then I feel like all that going on in there would make a great expansion. Like we could deal with the what's her name again? Zira, who's like this plant lady. I feel like she'd be a really good kind of thing, something that we go up against within Ishtal. Uh
Yeah. Yeah,
yeah.
like an early raid type deal.
Yeah. I
Yeah,
just
dude.
feel
No,
like
yeah, I
Ishtal would be a
agree. And
cool
like,
expansion. But like it could
yeah.
even be the first expansion, in my opinion.
Oh, I completely agree. I mean, especially because it's such like a central, like even just like geographically, it's very central in terms of like the main continent, right?
Hmm.
And yeah, you're right. It has enough problems going on. It has enough flavor to it to where it can
Yeah.
stand alone as its own expansion. Now,
Enough
I can
cool,
totally see
unique
it, and I would love
stuff
it. Yeah,
like
dude.
the
Yeah, even just
Vidalian
like,
and stuff like that, or the even just like the city of Ishao Khan. There's cool
oh
characters.
man,
Yeah, I just feel
yeah,
like
dude. And
it's
the
there.
armor sets are gonna look sick.
Oh yeah,
Ishtal
of
armor sets would
course.
go crazy.
Oh yeah, they would.
I'd be so into that actually. Oh my god. No, yeah, Ishtal expansion, please. And I definitely think Ionia is like for sure expansion worthy in my opinion. There's more
Yeah,
than enough going on in Ionia, and there's more than enough flavor for Ionia to be its own expansion. Absolutely. And that's another early expansion, right?
yeah,
We're not world ending at that point yet either. We're still just kind of dealing with whatever's going on, maybe like, recruiting Ionia into the rest of the world for whatever is to come, whether that's the like freaking Aurelian soul crown meteors falling from the sky or what, you know? We're preparing for something bigger with these expansions.
yeah.
And I would
And
love that.
I want to say this too. You know how we're like right now we're in that expansion mindset. You know, World of Warcraft, they kind of did something different now, where it's
We
like
do.
three expansions, a little bit.
Yeah. So they're doing a saga, which is a one overarching story over three expansions.
I would like to see that happen
Me too.
with
I
like
like
the
that a lot.
Freljord saga, Ionia saga. You can even do Ishtal. I don't know if Ishtal needs like a full saga, but you could do a saga. I want to see it like really fleshed out. I don't want to see stuff rushed through.
Yeah, and the thing I like about that, what you just said, at first I was like Freljord Saga. I was like, so it's just like 3 expansions in the Freljord, and it's like, no. The first
No.
expansion, definitely in the Freljord. First expansion could be entirely in the Freljord, and that'd be
Yeah.
great. But the great thing about that is that afterwards, your next expansion could just be taking place in the old world and like, maybe like adding some new smaller areas here and there, sure, just like some big content. But
Yes.
it's more so, yeah, it's more so about Freljord impacting the rest of the world afterwards, right? Like you're still spending a lot of time in Freljord for sure, and I'm sure they're gonna be fleshing out Freljord even further every expansion, but you're gonna have everything else going on in the world that you're gonna be exploring too. So you're not just spending the entire expansion in a snowy landscape and getting sick of the snow because you just want to be back at the
Exactly.
freaking green plains of Demacia again.
And no one's gonna get upset because you're having it's part of a saga. So it's not like we're releasing expansion and it's just taking you back to the old zones. It's like it's a part of the saga and we're
Yeah,
going
yeah.
back
You're
to
you're still,
yeah.
yeah, exactly. Freljord's still the main focus, you know?
Yes.
Even when you're in these other zones, you're still talking about what's going on in the Freljord, but you're preparing for what's going on in the Freljord. You're
Oh,
getting these armies together. You're helping out wherever you can in Demacia, Noxus, and Shurima, and everywhere. Even Ishtal that you've now like befriended at this point to some extent, even though they might
yeah.
still be a little weary about you because
The
we don't do that here.
Axiomata class people, the people who re-rolled to the Axiomata are with you now.
Yeah, dude, that kind of stuff. No, I would love that. Especially what one of my favorite parts about what they did with a saga, a 3 expansion saga, is that there's going to be a beginning, middle, and end to this story. This
Mhm.
this story that's being told for 3 expansions is going to have a conclusion that is satisfying, hopefully, if it's written right. But like it's a hard part about MMOs in any live service game where storytelling is important is that things just kind of drone on for a while, right? For
Yeah.
years. You're going to have these characters that they need to be going through some conflict at every single point in time. And like for like 10 years now, like Anduin is still having problems emotionally. It's like,
Yeah,
my
he
God,
is.
dude, I get it. Just so
What
like
I've
the
done?
idea that yeah, it's just like, man, come on. At this point, I'm really like, I'm over it personally.
Yeah, I'm same.
So the idea, yeah, so the idea that like we're here to tell a story. This saga is a story that will be told. There's gonna be a conflict, gonna have a big climax, and everything will be done, and we'll be able to move on to the next thing with a clean conclusion, clean wrap up.
Yeah, take
That's
your time
something
with
that
it.
is unheard of in MMOs. Yeah, exactly. Take your time and enjoy the story. Because there's gonna be another story after this one that'll be completely different. You
Yeah,
know,
I feel like it's
new
always a
conflicts, new
rush.
faces, all that
Get to
stuff.
the next one. Get to the next one. Get to the next one. It's like
Exactly,
let's
dude.
just let's not worry about the next one and then just focus on this one right now. Make it like really good, extend it out. It's okay if it takes like freaking the Freljord, if it takes 3 years, that's a good thing. That's okay.
Yeah, with a
And then
clear focus, a clear
yeah.
plot that's being driven along, and you know it's going somewhere. Like that's unheard of in MMOs. Seriously, I think even Final Fantasy 14 has that problem where it's just you're moving on to the next thing over and over and over again. Yeah, and you're right. It's just kind of a stagnant pace that you're stuck at the whole time. And it can really hurt. Like, especially by the time you go through like your third full like expansion, you really get the flow of how the MMO is telling its story. And it becomes super bland. So yeah, no,
Ex-
if they do something like that, individual stories that take a couple expansions to get through, I would love that. Oh my god, please, Riot. Oh my
Yeah,
god,
honest
tell full
that was
stories in
honestly a
your
good
MMO.
idea. That was a great idea is to spread it out like that, the way that they're doing now this
It's very
saga.
smart. I agree. I think
Yeah,
it's big for them.
and it makes people feel like uh instead of being like you're not going to get anything for 3 years, it's like no, you're getting something every year. And I feel like all they did was take an expansion, which was supposed to be usually it was 2 years. They
Hmm.
added it a third year and just said, "Okay, you're going to get 3 pieces. It'll be in 3 parts." And
Yeah,
they
it's literally
added to
it's
it.
a 3 act story. Yeah, no,
That's the way to tell a
it's such a
story.
genius idea. I completely agree. Even just the fact that yeah, it's split up into 3 acts is so perfect. You're gonna have a traditional hopefully well thought out story in an MMORPG, which is just, like, it's honestly revolutionary. Finally,
Man,
we're gonna get a story with a conclusion in an MMO.
yeah, and they need to keep looking. Riot team needs to keep looking at outside sources and see what everyone else is doing. What was that other MMO that like people kind of went crazy about for a while? It's like way too Unreal Engined out. You know
Oh
what I'm saying?
man,
Ashes
is
of
it
Creation, something like
Ashes of
that.
Creation? Yeah, yeah. I think you're
Yeah,
right. Yeah, it's that indie MMO.
yeah. I don't know if I'd ever play it, but at the same time, Riot needs to. I think it's definitely good to look at these other companies and see what they're doing, and to give you an idea of what you need to do. Like, look at World of Warcraft.
Definitely.
Look at what they did a lot. I'm not wrong. Let's look at what they did.
Don't copy too close to what they wrote
Yeah,
down, but
I'm not saying to copy their
yeah,
work, but look at what's working. Like this thing was received
yeah.
really well. I feel like yeah, you should do that. You should the Freljord should be a whole series. Ishtal should be a whole series if you want. Ionia is definitely should be a whole series.
Ionia's definitely a whole series.
Yeah, man, I'm just so
Yeah,
excited. We got a comment too when we were on the last podcast. We got a couple comments. One of them was from Red. He said, "I really hope it's not." We did say 2028, didn't we? The beginning of 2028 would be
I
like the
yeah,
release date.
I think we said like late 2027, maybe early 2028,
Man,
somewhere
we're
around
just
there.
being so pessimistic, okay? But
We are, dude. I
yeah,
want to be pleasantly surprised. Last thing I want to do is hope the MMO's coming out sooner than it actually does.
what I will say though, what Red said, so he's like, really hope it is not 2028. Would be like 7 years to make it. That's how long it would take. I mean, it would be an amazing game given that long, but I hope because Riot have a huge team and very skilled at making games that we get it within the next 2 years and not four. Fingers crossed. I mean, yeah, I would love 2026 would be. I mean,
That'd be
you
ideal
guys
for
want to hear
sure.
crying on a podcast? We'll cry. You'll hear tears.
You
I don't know if
will.
you can hear tears, but you'll hear tears like water falling.
Yeah, and
Uh,
the problem is you won't even hear us talking. We're just gonna be rapidly clicking because we'll be playing the game. You're just
we'll
gonna
be
hear keyboard taps the whole time for an
bit of a
hour.
unique
Then we stop
podcast this
recording.
time, guys. We're gonna tell you what's happening in the dungeon.
We have live captions playing through an AI.
Yeah.
Dude,
Uh,
I mean, hey, 2026, please. I'll take it. My God. I mean, yeah, I think 2026 is not entirely out of the question for sure. I
yeah,
don't think
no,
that's unrealistic by any means. But I'm also just like, man, dude, it's an MMORPG, and I hope they do it right. I'm personally cool with them taking their sweet time with it, because if it ends up being good, I'm playing it for the next 10 years. You know?
man, I really hope that this game is what. I mean, I feel like it doesn't have to do too much to meet my expectations. It just has to at least like solve a
Yeah,
lot of
like
the
it has to take
problems
place
with
in
the current
Runeterra.
MMOs. Take place in Runeterra, like the world that honestly I love at this point, and I'll be
Yeah,
happy. And just make it player friendly. I think free to play is the way to go. That's how you're going to get majority of your players in, but don't make it pay to win. And I consider cosmetics pay to win. If like the best cosmetics are in the store because cosmetics are important. But we'll see.
yeah.
I have high hopes.
No, I mean, me too. Even with just like all of our wishes and stuff, like I'm always hoping that we get like an actual Demacia and Noxus faction that you're playing in one of the two factions. But I'm like 90% sure that's not gonna happen, right? Like I'm pretty confident that we're just gonna like have our race specific starting area, and then after that it's just kind of everyone's like in the same, like kind of like Final Fantasy 14, everyone's in the adventurers guild, and
Yeah.
that's just it, right? Everyone's in this like, either world peace type, like fighting for world peace military type deal, or they're just adventurers. I think it's gonna be one of those two things. And I don't see it being a two faction war, and if it's not, there's still plenty of things that matter way more to me, that they're just like, just be a good MMO, dude. Just be fun. Just
Yeah.
you know, like whether it's skill shots or tab targeting or however the heck they go about this MMO, please just let it be a like fun traditional MMO with just, good progression, meaningful progression, and like solid community content, socializing, that kind of stuff. That's what really matters to me more than anything. And I think Riot is more than capable of pulling it off, and I'm like pretty damn confident that they are pulling it off as we speak.
Yeah. That community, like we were saying last time, was the most important thing.
Yeah, that's what keeps you playing for like 5 to 10 years on the same exact game, you know? As much fun as Endgame is, it's other people that keep you sticking around.
I agree with that. I think honestly, community is what keeps you in the game more than even more than the game. Like if your friends are playing,
Yeah,
I
more
feel
than
like
like the
that's what kept
gameplay.
us in World of Warcraft for so long, despite us not like liking as much as we used to. Was just because our friends were playing and because we wanted to play together.
Yeah, exactly. And we'll we'll meet up in like person. We're gonna talk about what's going on in the MMO. You know, like what's the latest news, that kind of stuff. Oh, this
And we
upcoming
won't be
expansion,
doing
you
it
guys
right here.
excited? That kind of stuff. Yeah, even just like conversations outside of the game is like it's what keeps you going. It's what keeps you excited for the next expansion. When other people are getting excited too, and you're all just playing together. That's what keeps MMO alive. Because honestly, there's no other way somebody's gonna play the same game for 10 years straight.
Yep. But I am going to have to cut us short just a little bit today. I do have something else that I have to do. But I hope you enjoyed this episode. We'll continue this conversation in the next one, right here in the Brazen Hydra Pub in Bilgewater. You can find me at Endgrove on socials and YouTube.
You can find me at Conquest95 on Twitter.
And to stay up to date for the goings on for this podcast specifically, you can follow us at the Brazen Hydra on Twitter. Feel free to add us questions, suggest topics for us to talk about. You can also find us at thebrazenhydra.com. Thanks for stopping by, and we'll see you in the next one.